Hello, this is Matt Blue, and today I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a long time. It was a question that occurred to me while I was in the car driving down the road one day, and it just stuck with me since. It's been about 5 years, and I've been able to think a lot about the idea, a whole lot to be exact. Basically, the idea is like this. What would happen if I took Middle-earth, the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth, and accelerated its timeline by 2,000 years? What would a fantasy world look like if it were to be advanced to the modern age, and then in the postmodern, the science fiction age? How would the history of such a world go? What kind of stories could be told regarding the development of such a society? I wanted to consider these questions in a fictional narrative at first, but as I wrote more, and as I became more well-versed as an author, I learned that oftentimes building a detailed fictional world is more fun for the author than it is for the reader, who has to learn a whole lot about the history of the world they are visiting. I mean, Middle-earth already has enough history as it is. There's so much of it that I could fill an entire book, and it has, in the Similarity and other titles. There's just so much that went into the creation of that world that I really can't believe no one has ever brought that fantasy world into the modern age. Well, no fantasy author that I've ever written. Or read. I'm not talking about steampunk, because that's its own genre. I'm talking about the fictional fantasy setting, the sword and sorcery setting, the world created by the seminal work Fantasia and expanded upon by Tolkien and C.S. Lewis until it became a mainstream genre, the genre it is today. I'll be drawing on pretty much my entire experience with fantasy and history. Before I start, I'll have to tell you my qualifications. I'm not a history major. I don't know much more than what I learned from my AP World History class, and so everything I say here is just idle speculation by someone who has a passing knowledge of the history, gained through some osmosis and a lot of more musing on the topic. My ideas are in no way concrete in the sense that they should be taken as truths. With that out of the way, let's get started. This is going to be a 6-part series, with each part of the series covering a specific age of the world that I am going to create. This will allow me to go in depth into how I think a fantasy world will move through its relatively modern history, how it will go from being a feudal society where knights and wizards fight with swords and magic into a spacefaring Kardashev II civilization that has gone past our age of postmodernism and has integrated magic into a technology that reverses the well-tread idiom coined by Arthur C. Clarke. In essence, in our case, any sufficiently advanced magic will be indistinguishable from technology. That will be our ending point. But in this video, I'll only be covering what I think their Renaissance would look like. Now, the Renaissance in our world was caused by two things: the collapse of the feudal system and the rise of the merchant middle class. The collapse of the feudal system freed up the people and resources that were necessary to create technology and art, and the resulting merchant class fueled that art and that technology, compounding it until it became the Industrial Revolution. But I'm getting ahead of myself. From what I know, the main reason why the feudal system collapsed was the Black Death. The death of 30% of the European population destabilized the system of sets and lords, causing a steep increase in the price of labor, which enabled previously disenfranchised peasants the ability to buy their own land and become independent from their lords, who originally owned the land they worked on. In our world, disease is curable by magic, and because that plague will kill off a large portion of the population is not possible by any means, simply because magic enables a sort of proto-medical trade that actually works instead of the witch doctor of our feudal age. In the world, magic actually heals people of their illness, and as such the Black Death is dead at the doorstep. However, there is another force of death that could possibly fill the role: the classic ancient evil and its armies of orcs, goblins, and trolls. They could very well cause the death of a large portion of the population, destabilizing the feudal system, and when the forces of good win, as they always do in the end, it should be one of the laws of our universe. The forces of good always win in our world, like a law of physics. And when the forces of good win and try to pick up the pieces of their broken society, they find that the feudal system no longer works. Maybe because there are legions of peasants that now know how to fight and can rise up in revolt, or maybe because there are simply no more lords left over the vast tracts of land that have been ravaged by the war. Whatever the method, in our world, the evil god king destabilizes the feudal system, leading to a system of reforms that causes the Renaissance to happen. Once the Renaissance begins, magic becomes a focus of technological development, and magical technologies, both new and old, come onto the scene. Literacy is one thing, but in our Middle-earth analog, magic use is the thing that causes the empowerment of the average person. No matter what magic system you're using, in the end it's probably possible to twist the rules so that everyone can have at it. Like Gutenberg inventing the printed press, an enterprising individual will probably invent a technology that makes magical energy available to everyone, a technology so powerful that it will revolutionize the entire world, just like the printing press did to our world. In Middle-earth, that could be something like a quick way to manufacture rings of power. In Alagasia, that could be the creation of a spell that enables people with no previous magical power to have access to the magic stream. Whatever the case, this new technology would make magic a thing for the masses, no longer a thing for the monks and the wizards. Just like how gunpowder revolutionized our world, this magical technology would revolutionize the battlefield of our fantasy world. You would be able to give any old 20-year-old a piece of this technology, and he would have the killing power of 10 knights in armor. He could go toe-to-toe with the mounted horsemen of 100 years before and win. Because magic is a varied field, this technology could take any form, and more than likely it will take many forms at once. Different soldier corps would be developed that would use different mass magic techniques. A lightning squad, a summoner's corps, a necromancer's brigade. The battlefield would be hectic and crazy, with the mortality rate skyrocketing and the potential for damage to the surrounding area increasing 100-fold. Gods would rain down from above, dragons would fly in legions, storm clouds full of potent energy would gather, releasing typhoons that would tear entire cities to pieces. Here's where the history of this world would diverge from our own. Because the power of magic, which has been unlocked by the magic press, an arms race would occur and a single individuals would gain massive amounts of power incomparable to the power of those before them. However, society would regulate, and magical defense systems would spring up around cities. Instead of solid walls of rock, cities would have complicated woven tapestries of spells that would prevent magic from being used in certain ways within their borders. This arms race would last for quite some time until the potential of magic unlocked by this magic press was exhausted. This is analogous to the arms race that occurred with guns and cannons among the European powers during the Renaissance Age until the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, and in our Middle-earth it's what enables the next steps of history to occur. Now let's take a look at the other things that magic can do for our Renaissance Age society. Magic has rarely been used as a center of art, in a fiction or otherwise, but in our Renaissance world, that is what would happen. Because magic is both art and a science, in our Middle-earth, the sciences and the arts would blend and meld until they become one homogeneous thing. A painting and a telescope are far apart in our world, but in this world of magic, someone can create a living painting that took the stars and magnified them so that a person could look into the frame and see the vast void of space. The Mona Lisa would have a real physiology which could be studied like a cadaver. Necromancy could bring people back to life with augments that would allow them to be super powerful. Normal people could enhance their abilities to be on par with Superman in our world. The average life expectancy would skyrocket, and immortality would become a luxury like fine wine and cheese. All this could remain in the realm of the artist-magician. Even the human body would become a canvas. Living statues, interactive paintings, chimeras with both artistic and scientific value. The magical Renaissance would become just as amazing to us now as the real Renaissance was to those who experienced it. We've become dull to the advances made during this time in our world because of how much technology we have today, but imagining this kind of renaissance gives me the chills. Like art, the abstract sciences would benefit greatly as well. Rigorous logic applied to the forces of magic would tame it and create something more powerful than anything before it. Mathematical formulas describing the motion of the heavenly bodies would become imbued with magical power and come to life as real representations of what they describe. People like Isaac Newton would come up with universal theories of magical properties that are analogous to the discovery of the laws of physics. Magical calculus would enable spells that were previously unimaginable. Isn't that a cool idea, though? Magical calculus? To summarize, a magical renaissance would change the face of the world and be the source of wonder and amazement. Many things would change. Some things would stay the same. Battlefields would be amazingly different from what we encounter today, with magic weapons of mass destruction contending with each other, tearing up the landscape but being deflected by the wards around cities. Magical calculus would enable targeted spells that would unlock many of the secrets of the universe long before they would be unlocked in our timeline. The common use of magic would enable even a middle-class citizen to become immortal, to have superpowers, to have infinite pools of knowledge and generally be a badass. Next time I'm going to be discussing colonization and the impact of globalized magic using society. After that I'll be talking about the Industrial Revolution, which will explode like nothing ever has in our world with the creation of magical factories. Then I'll talk about what the world wars would look like, and then I'll talk about what a postmodern society would be like, how a magical internet would look. And then I'll get to the final point of this train of thought, which is the idea that any sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from technology. And in that last video I'll be seeing how magic would affect interstellar colonization. So subscribe if you liked what I put up today. Your pet dog Gandalf is ordering you to do it. Also hit that like button. And with that I say good day. See you next time.